Endorsement. A form of public support or approval. Approval. Authorization. Ratification. Many retired athletes are able to make a lot of money by doing product endorsements. Coherent. Logical and well-organized, easy to understand. Fathomable. Eloquent. Understandable. The party's policies were based on prejudice rather than on any coherent ideology. Hierarchy. Organizing people according to status. Ranking. Class system. Grouping. Women are not able to penetrate the male-dominated hierarchy of large corporations. Indigenous. Originating naturally in a particular place. Native. Primordial. Original. The indigenous tribe would be awarded huge grants to preserve its unique culture. Paradigm. A standard model of something. Model. Prototype. Standard. After the terrorist attack, the government created a new paradigm for domestic security. Redundancy. Situation where worker is no longer needed. Surplus. Oversupply. Additional. The restructuring of the company is expected to result in the redundancy of hundreds of workers. Analogy. A comparison between one thing with another. Similarity. Resemblance. Likeness. There is an analogy between the way water moves in waves and the way light travels. Compensate. Give something, typically money, in recognition of loss. Remunerate. Pay back. Reimburse. They received a large sum of money to compensate for the damage to their property. Consensus. Agreement among all the people involved. Agreement. Harmony. Accord. There is a general consensus among political leaders in favor of economic reform. Dwindling. Gradually diminishing in size, amount, or strength. Diminishing. Lessening. Declining. The dwindling supplies of natural resources are frequently discussed in newspaper articles. Groundbreaking. Introducing new ideas or methods. Innovative. Pioneering. Revolutionary. We had the opportunity to learn about social research and to aid a groundbreaking study. Intrinsic. Essential qualities or features. inherent, fundamental, underlying. Education has an intrinsic worth, as well as helping you achieve your goals. Predominant. Present as the strongest or main element. Leading. Foremost. Paramount. Flying continues to be the predominant means of travel despite increased airfares. Repercussion. A bad consequence of an action. Reaction. Side effect. Aftermath. Any decrease in tourism could have serious repercussions for the local economy. Speculation. Guess about the possible causes. Supposition. Conjecture. Assumption. The news reports were written based on speculation and contained few proven facts. Condemn. Express strong disapproval of. Denounce. Criticize. Reproach. The school condemns cheating, and any student caught cheating will be expelled. Definitive. Most reliable, or complete. Conclusive. Decisive. Unequivocal. The DNA results will provide the investigators with definitive proof of the suspect's identity. Fundamental. Forming a necessary base or core. Essential. Rudimentary. Underlying. We need to make fundamental changes to the way in which we treat our environment. Profound. Having intellectual depth and insight. Insightful. Thoughtful. Perceptive. His mother's death when he was aged 6 had a very profound effect on him. Safeguard. Protect from harm or damage. Defense. Shield. Protection. Nowadays, many people have taken second jobs as a safeguard against unemployment. Consecutive. Following each other continuously. Succeeding. Sequential. Progressive. If you miss 2 consecutive classes in a row, the instructor will drop you from the class. Heritage. Property that descends to an heir. Ancestry. Lineage. Tradition. It can be exciting to explore our heritage and see where our ancestors came from. Pervasive. Spreading widely throughout an area. Prevalent. Widespread. Ubiquitous. In many cities, police corruption is a pervasive issue that touches all communities. Acknowledge. To admit to being real or true. Recognize. Admit. Take into account. We have to acknowledge that something is wrong with our ecological system. Aesthetic. Relating to art or beauty. Artistic. Ornamental. Good-looking. The company has proved enormously successful in both commercial and aesthetic terms. Biased. Preferring someone or something unfairly. Prejudiced. Partisan. Discriminatory. It is true that most newspapers are biased towards one particular political party. Concurrent. Existing simultaneously, or side by side. Coincident. Coexisting. Simultaneous. The criminal was imprisoned for 2 concurrent terms of 30 months and 18 months. Deviation. Departure from a standard or custom. Divergence. Alteration. Digression. Normally birds fly south for the winter, but there is a deviation from their usual routine. Depiction. A representation in words or images. Portrayal. Description. Interpretation. She is a successful artist, painting beautifully detailed miniatures and depictions of local life. Exemption. Permission to ignore rules or obligations. Release. Exoneration. Freedom. He was exempt from physical education requirements because of her health problems. Facilitate. To make something possible or easier. Support. Mediate. Empower. The translator will facilitate the conversation between the immigrant and the attorney. Genre. A specific type of music, film, or writing. Category. Classification. Department. Rock was her favorite genre of music, but she also had a secret love for country. Legitimate. To make something legal or acceptable. Lawful. Justifiable. Sanctioned. Most doctors appear to recognize homeopathy as a legitimate form of medicine. Privileged. Special benefits available only to some people. Advantage. Prerogative. Benefit. Only the privileged few could afford to send their children to private schools. Scrutinize. Inspect closely and thoroughly. examine, investigate, inspect. Before you purchase an expensive item, make sure you scrutinize it for any defects. Tentative. Pertaining to a trial, not certain. Hesitant. Uncertain. Doubtful. Without the results of the blood test, the doctor could only make a tentative diagnosis. Unanimous. A complete or absolute agreement. Congenial. Concordant. Like-minded. Because the jury could not reach a unanimous decision, the case will be revised. Abandoned. Left without care and protection. Deserted. Discarded. Uninhabited. The game was abandoned at half-time because of the poor weather conditions. Dysfunction. Not operating normally or properly. Abnormality. Malfunction. Aberration. Treating the man's sexual dysfunction required medication as well as psychotherapy. Emerging. Just beginning to exist or be noticed. Growing. Promising. Developing. It is difficult to manage an emerging business and an emerging family at the same time. Framework. A basic structure underlying a system. Structure. Configuration. Arrangement. The government needs to establish a legal framework for the protection of the environment. Incorporate. Integrate a part into the whole. Combine. Amalgamate. Integrate. The party vowed to incorporate environmental considerations into all its policies. Metaphorical. Something that is used symbolically. Figurative. Allegorical. Denotative. There are many portraits in the museum. They both have metaphorical as well as literal meanings. Plagiarize. To steal another person's ideas or work. Replicate. Duplicate. Reproduce. People often truly believe that the information they plagiarized was actually their own. Pinpoint. Locate or describe exactly or precisely. Identify. Recognize. Spot. Emergency workers at the site are still unable to pinpoint the cause of the explosion. Recession. A prolonged downturn in the economy. Downturn. Stagnation. Bust. The current recession has weakened so many firms that many can no longer survive. Sovereign. Possessing supreme or ultimate power. Independent. Autonomous. Self-ruling. Once I reach legal age, I will be a sovereign individual and will have control over my own life. Withstand. To stand or hold out against. Endure. Tolerate. Cope with. The houses close to the coast were built so sturdily that they can withstand the strongest storms. Abuse. The improper use of something. Bullying. Maltreatment. Exploitation. Millions of young men and women all over the world have fallen prey to drug abuse. Aggravate. To make a bad situation worse. Exasperate. Infuriate. Antagonize. Today, many emerging problems are aggravated by the pressures of modernization. Commission. Authorize the production of something. Authorize. Designate. Sanction. The government set up a commission to investigate allegations of police violence. Convey. Communicate ideas or feelings indirectly. Disseminate. Indicate. Express. You need to be able to convey the subtle nuances of the meaning of your expression. Coincidence. When two things happen at the same time. Chance. Concurrence. Serendipity. It was mere coincidence that brought them together so far from two different nations. Discretionary. Left to individual choice or judgment. Elective. Optional. Not required. Some students may be eligible for a discretionary grant for their university course. Exacerbate. To make something worse. Worsen. Intensify. Complicate. This attack will exacerbate the already tense relations between the two communities. Exposure. The act of exposing, laying open, or uncovering. Disclosure. Manifestation. Revelation. There is convincing evidence of a link between exposure to sun and skin cancer. Inference. Process of reaching a conclusion. Deduction. Determination. Conclusion. When you are reading, you can make inferences based on the information the author provides. Inherent. Existing as a natural and permanent way. Intrinsic. Immanent. Natural. Everyone knows jumping out of an airplane is an activity that comes with inherent risk. Pressing. Urgent or needing to be dealt with immediately. Imperative. Compelling. Critical. Online harassment has become one of the pressing issues in our modern society. Pragmatic. Dealing with things sensibly and realistically. Practical. Reasonable. Realistic. The scientist had a pragmatic approach to dealing with the freshwater crisis. Reinforce. To make something stronger. Strengthen. Buttress. Consolidate. Until the construction was complete, extra scaffolding was erected to reinforce the facade. Succinct. Very brief in statement or expression. Concise. Compact. Abbreviated. The book gives an admirably succinct account of archaeology and its history. Violation. The action of violating someone or something. Breach. Trespass. Law-breaking. Amnesty International opposes the death penalty as a violation of the right to life. Adhere. To attach firmly to something, usually. Follow. Maintain. Comply with. We adhere to the principles of equal rights and freedom of expression for all. Connotation. Something suggested by a word or thing. Undertone. Indication. Citation. A good dictionary will give us the connotation of a word as well as its meaning. Discrimination. Distinguishing between two or more people or things. Prejudice. Unfairness. Favoritism. People think that the research understates the amount of discrimination women suffer. Empirical. Derived from experiment and observation. Observational. Experimental. Practical. Without a doubt, the DNA test will provide empirical confirmation of the suspect's identity. Eradication. The complete destruction of something. Elimination. Destruction. Annihilation. The eradication of smallpox by vaccination was one of medicine's greatest triumphs. Formulate. Putting together different parts. compose, construct, originate. A successful business is started when you formulate a strategy for making money. Momentum. Speed of an object in motion. Energy. Propulsion. Velocity. The campaign has been gaining momentum ever since the television appeal.